Ooh, we getting good at this now. Usually it's a delay. We on it. Okay, welcome back. It is another Lyrical Ones. I am your gracious, most humble, and thankful host, Cineo, for those that know, those that don't know. And this is episode where we at, y'all? Episode
19.
19. Episode 19. That would make this verse 2 bar 3. Okay, we still working, right? Verse 2 bar 3. We are making it happen, and just going around. June, how are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you so much, Sin. How are
That's
you
what's up.
doing?
Oh, thank you for asking. I had to pull myself away from these lovely. We are recording. It is 7:09 on the West Coast for those that don't know Pacific Standard Time, and it is a Wednesday night, October 7th. The vice president debates are going on right now, and I had to pull myself away because it was a little entertaining. I will admit this is a little more entertaining. I mean, actually, they both were entertaining, but this one, for other reasons, we'll get to later. But thank you for asking. Alfluent, how we doing tonight?
Saying I'm good, June. I'm good. Happy to be here. Happy to have our guest who will be introduced shortly. Um, like in the midst of an election season, it's nice to come across creators because creators are still making more sense in the world than most of us who are not creating, and they're creating out of the state that we're in, creating something new and something better, creating art, creating hope, creating life. So I'm happy to have our guest here, Dave. Dave, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
So, Dave, what brings you to the Lyrical Ones podcast?
Well, I'm here to talk about an album I put out about a month ago, Nostalgic Summer, and just talk to you guys about creativity, music, West Coast things, whatever the
Hey,
topics are tonight.
So just to kind of go in, there is some complicitness, right? There's some collusion, there's some backdoor conversations going on. So for those that don't know, I actually had the opportunity to meet Dave when I had the prototype mass back in LA. Actually, it's almost a complete year. It was October 2019. And so here we are, October 2020. And I've had the ability to connect with Dave through this opportunity. It was at the time it was called Ill Minds Past the Aux. It's now turned into Blap Sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Ill Mind is a music producer who's had the opportunity to work with Beyonce, Jay-Z, Drake, Kanye. You name the names. Ill Mind has been around. I remember Ill Mind from my inception of really learning how to be a producer way back in like 2005, 2006. He was on an album called The Strange Fruit Project, right? So that was my first opportunity really getting to know what he was about, and I love that album. And so, I went to LA, and I will say that I went to the one in San Francisco, and I'm from SF, and that one, it was good and enlightening, but the connection that I made in LA, like I feel like I've been able to really develop relationships with people, right? Either through witnessing their own growth and success or through actually directly working with people. It has been one of the best transformative experiences I had. So, first big ups to Illmind, but more importantly, Dave is like, if we all kind of are like all vying for this space and time when it comes to like being artists, especially we were all sitting in the same room. It was like 40 of us. And everybody's coming in on some like I would say majority, not everyone, but a big majority was on some very aggressive hip hop mindset. Like, these are our beats. This is, super 808s coming in with them trap drums. Dave, since that moment, has only like giving me like straight up joy and like the most non-stress with music, because everything he's given or he's produced or he's been a part of has been something that has like felt so like warm and welcoming and like such an inviting sound, right? And so as I seen over time, right, the music he's been creating and he was getting ready to release, it was like you would get hints of things that you're familiar with, like you know, it would be soulful, or it'd be witty, or it'd be, you know, Dave got bars. Don't get it twisted. Like, you see guitars and you think, oh, he's just this acoustic guy, but he got bars. He can spit. Like, if you really peep, because I mean, I am a supporter, but I'm a supporter in what I believe in and what I love and enjoy. And Dave Marks' music is something that I enjoy and that I love and appreciate, right? Because, you know, he put out a project called Nostalgic Summer, and it definitely harkens back to like certain innocent times and vibes, those pockets, those moments, those memories where it's easy to take it for granted and gloss over it. But when you really look back and you really peep, like, he did it in a way that it wasn't even, to me, people would say soft is a way of like not being direct or being passive or going around it, right? Or trying to mystify it. And the way he did it grounded it in such a like an honest reality that it was like, yo, I really got to look back at where I came from and what I went through and really be super appreciative of those times, because it's easy to lose sight of that. Like, we all got jobs, we all pursuing things that we want to do. And I feel like Dave Marks' project really was able to encapsulate like a lot of good feelings and good energy. Like, it was such a good vibe. And so I wanted him to come to this because even though I'm connected with so many, I feel like if I was going to bring anybody into the circle or into the fold first from that group, it would have to be Dave, because of what he creates and because of this space, right? Like, I have to be mindful, like, this music is good music, right? And so in that, it's a healing music. It's a vibe that doesn't weigh you down, right? Like, it can be lighthearted, but it can be as deep as you make it if you really peep what he's delivering. And I think that speaks to not only the music, but it speaks to Dave, right? Because as an artist, we're vulnerable, and the things that resonate with people are when you're at your most vulnerable. That's when you're being transparent, you're giving yourself. And I think Dave has done an incredible job of doing that. So Dave, once again, thank you for coming to the Lyrical Ones, episode 19, verse 2, bar 3 podcast. Thank you.
Damn, I couldn't be more happy to be here. That's a glowing review. I mean, it means the world to me. I feel really seen with that review. With Nostalgic Summer, like, my music, I don't know. I think I know a lot of artists feel like this, but I feel like I don't make music in one genre, you know? Like, obviously, I born in 92, I'm 28 now, so hip hop has been the pop music of my growing up. But also, like, when I learned to play music, I was playing Jack Johnson and John Mayer songs and Ed Sheeran, right? And I definitely had a phase maybe in my earlier years where it was a little more of that, like, Jason Mraz, white boy rapping on the guitar. But now that I'm getting way more into the musical production, I want to bring a new sound. I want to bring what's unique from me. And then, as I know is so important to you, Cineo, like, have the music pop off, but have a message too. Say something real, you know? So, man, I'm so glad you were loving it and feeling a lot of those songs. I'm really excited to talk more about it today.
Well, I'm just happy that you're saying something real, because, Dave, I've heard that if art is how we decorate space, music is how we decorate
time. I just heard that this week too. Blew my like, and with the tweet I saw had the emojis of the. That's what I was feeling like. I was like,
well, like, not to cut you off, but it looks like you've been decorating time superbly, because it's been, well, at least the past 2 weeks, because, sir, you have over 20,000 streams just on Nostalgic Summer alone.
Thank you.
So what a way to decorate the past 2 weeks, and congratulations to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Yeah, that was, I think it's been out about 6 weeks now. I think now we're over 50,000 streams, which is more streams, it's more listeners than have ever listened to my music before, which feels great. With each project I've put out, the audience has grown, which it feels beautiful. I mean, like, making it is the most important thing to me, but the fact that people want to listen, there's no words to describe how much it means to me, really.
Incredible. Forgive me for mixing up the 2 and 5 weeks. So no, it's
not. No, that was my last time. I see you. Numbers are still growing and still rising. By the time you guys listen, 60,000, 70,000. We'll check back in.
Of course. And if you're looking, for all of our listeners, where do we find Dave Marks music? You got to do the @ Dave Marks with an X music. And that's going to be on IG. That's going to be on, you can look up on Facebook. That's going to be on Twitter.
And you know, I'm really about that life because I was like, let me look up Dave on you know, all of my different streaming services that I support. And it's funny, it's like I was just listening to another actual kind of alumnus of our group. So it's just funny to know that, like, yeah, like people are out here really going for it, really pursuing their dreams. And, you know, Dave is definitely a reflection of that pursuit, right? Like, believe in yourself, understand that, you know, you got to be patient with yourself. But once it starts happening, people start listening, and we're in that time now where people are listening. So, you know, Dave, I know it's only gonna be bigger, better. It's only gonna go further, farther. And I think that you know, it's just crazy, like knowing that, yeah, like you just don't know what people are doing out here, but everybody's doing something. So don't take that for granted. So with that, I mean, how did you come up with the name Nostalgic Summer, but also the concept of the project? Like how did this formulate?
Yeah, so the idea for this kind of came of like, so I moved from SF down to LA last October. It was. So I've been here about a year now. And I left my like daytime corporate job in January to pursue music and being a producer full time. And we're living in a house in a neighborhood now, as opposed to like an apartment in the city, a little more. I like got a bike. I was riding the bike. I had a backyard. We adopted a dog for some reason. And then obviously like the pandemic hit and the world went crazy. And I was like missing childhood a lot, oddly. You know, I was just like, and in the same time missing it, like somewhat finding that childhood joy again, not being tied to a corporate job and being able to kind of just like be me a little more freely, not really worrying as much what people think, like probably more like you were when you were 8 and 9, had probably more confidence than you do now. And like, I guess I was toying on that thought for a while. I was like, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Am I like living in the past, or am I kind of like returning to a time and taking the best things from it? So the first track on the album is called Old School Movies. And I like made this music video where my mom sent out basically all these whole old home movies of us. And I went through and I chopped up different pieces of like me kind of having a good time when I was a kid, or me playing guitar younger. And the video and the song is kind of all about, I was like watching those, and I'm watching them. I'm like watching them in this room, and then I'm watching them on 2 screens, and then they start to kind of surround me. And, you know, I'm getting into that nostalgia. I'm like only focused on the past. And then toward the end of the song, I kind of bring the past with me to the now, and like use what I've learned from the past and use my past to bring me in the present. These are the things that have made me who I am. And so I wanted to expand that concept to the whole album, right? Like, what are those things that make you feel like a warm blanket? Like, what's that memory or that smell, like that, the smell of your grandma's house type thing that like, wow, brings you back like that. I wanted to make like every song have a sound like that. So it was really full of a lot of like old timey pianos, really full of a lot of like kind of older references, or references to like, you know, more childhood and teenage things. But then also like, okay, now I'm a grown up. Like, how can I bring that into the real world, into this real crazy world, you know? So I wanted to bring back that nostalgia everyone loves, you know, good old timey, something that reminds them of a memory, but you know, the nostalgia within 2020.
It sounds like it's a multi-generational album.
Right. Speaking of grandmother, so Dave, what did your grandma's house smell like? Because I remember my grandmother's house.
It's like a certain cleaning product that probably doesn't exist anymore. It's so funny. I couldn't name it, but if it was a smell test across 10 things, I'd be like, that's my grandma's, you know? Probably like some old, inexpensive soap, you know, like type thing. I can't even name it, but it's so specific. It's almost like another smell that's like that in my head is like, do you remember what like your classroom smelled like in like elementary school? Like
yeah, that cleaning smell. I know. The floors always smell the same. Yeah.
Right. So it's something just like that. And I want, when people hear these songs, for it to have that kind of same association of like bringing them back.
Nice.
That's that 409 industrial strength circa 1995 before prop measure whatever talking about cancer. That's what that smell really is if you really want to keep it 100. Because if you remember when they came with them brown paper towels and they was getting ready to wipe down your table, you were like, the fumes, that's all I smell. So I 100% agree. You're right. It is some cleaning products in that sauce. Like sometimes it can be other aromas, but when you started saying cleaning supply, I'm like, oh, he really talking about it now. You talking about cheap soap, man. You going into the bathroom if you had soap at school. Oh, that's a whole nother smell. That's a whole nother event right there. But you know, again,
in the bathroom.
I'm gonna say grandma taught me well because the house ain't clean unless it smells like cleaning products. Okay.
That's real. Yeah. So, speak on it. Speak on it. So
nowadays we are eco-friendly and we use vinegar, which has more of a lighter smell, if any.
Yes, it is acidic, so be careful. Make sure to test the area before you use it. Remember, we're here with life skills.
And it will attract fruit flies. So make sure you can cut it with some vodka and some distilled water and put a little essential oils in there if you want to make a natural disinfectant that's non-toxic. There you go. That's your hack for you.
Essential tangents. We got essential tangents, okay? So with that being said, like, I mean, take us through your musical journey. Like, when did you get introduced to music? Like, when did you realize this is something that you can't let go of? And then when was that moment when you're like, okay, I'm ready to take that leap of faith into creating music to give to the world, to share with the world? Because those are two distinct moments.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a part of my life, but I think the relationship has been up and down. My dad was always playing the piano at home. He was like a great self-taught piano player, never really like professional or anything, but just kind of as like a stress reliever after work type thing. And then my older brother, started taking piano lessons and was getting really, really good at it. And he was actually a professional piano player in New York for like 7 or 8 years. But so when he was 4 years older than me. So maybe he's, 12 and I'm 8, and I see him getting really good at it. And so at that time I was like, oh, I don't like the piano because I saw how good I think looking back, maybe I want to do my own thing. So I tried the guitar a little, didn't have really any commitment, or anything for it. It's like, oh, I'm not good at this immediately. Man, I don't like it that much anymore. But then when I was like 12, 13, I started really like falling in love with music. To be honest, Jack Johnson is like one of the first artists that really, I was like, I can do that. I was like, I like this and I can do that. These were some of the first, I still have the books that I like learned from. I got those little tab books where they kind of teach you, for those who don't know, like guitar tabs is like a little easier way to learn how to play guitar, I guess. It gives you the instructions with the numbers and the strings. So it was the first time I learned how to play a song that I had actually liked. And I played it for anyone who would listen. I loved it. It was Banana Pancakes by Jack Johnson. And I played it for anyone who would listen. I mean, that was probably the only song I had for like 2-3 years. You just get so good at that one. But then it expanded for me. I started really liking it. Then obviously, when you're a teenager and you're playing, you want to play with other people. It's like, what songs can you play? What songs can you play? And so everyone kind of plays guitar. So then that's when I started, learning the bass a little bit, learning how to play the piano a little more, which was, definitely some good osmosis from my dad and my brother. And so, through 16, 17, 18, I started little bands. We'd play in the high school battle of the bands. I wrote some demos and tried to record them on those like early mics where you would just kind of plug in the direct USB. I didn't have any money or a computer, so I'd get one of those free softwares like Audacity. I had no idea about production. It all kind of sounded like crap. And like that would, I'd say before really trying it there, I was like, I didn't really have respect for music production. I was like, oh, you just got to be a good player. But then when I saw how hard it is to translate or how hard it is to really make the full sound that you're hearing in your head or you're going for, I really started falling in love with like music production, arrangement, and everything there. So then I went to college, not for music, got a business degree at Villanova University on the East Coast. But I think the biggest blessing there was I joined an a cappella group. It was called the Villanova Supernovas. It was like a 16, 20 person, depending on the year, like co-ed a cappella group. And like I quickly became the like music director and arranger of that group. So it was we just picked songs, and I like made up parts for everyone to sing and taught them around the piano. Like at the beginning, that job was probably like too big for me type thing. I didn't really know how to do a lot of this, but by faking it till I make it, like I learned so much about harmony, arrangement, dynamics, how to move, how to bring the emotion into songs. And that was with only people's voices, you know? So that was really my focus for those years I was in college. I wasn't doing a ton of songwriting or music production because I was so into that group. And then when I graduated from Villanova, I moved out to San Francisco to start working at Google. And, you know, as great as a job of it was like relatively immediately unfulfilling to me. You know, it was just it was a great job for what a job is, but it didn't light me up in any way. So I had to find the passion outside of work to keep it going. Right now, music was the top thing. I mean, for the first 3-4 years in San Francisco, I was either working or home playing music. Like I didn't really know too many people, you know, it was all I really wanted to do. I was always a little like sad from the workday or burnt out. And all I wanted to do was kind of like play guitar or like watch Ableton tutorials or this. So at that time, I guess that was probably like 2013, 2014. I was very into, I want to produce some EDM bangers, you know? So I started in that regard on Ableton of just trying to remix songs. Like I was very into artists like Flume and Disclosure, trying to go in that direction. And then, you know, after a couple years of doing that, I found kind of more, I'd say the direction I'm going in now, where I love songwriting. I love singing and making my art, you know, completely, but I'm really finding my passion for helping other people get their voice out and being a producer for other artists. I also think that's the best way I can explore all the genres that I really want to explore. Like, I think it's been a little hard for me to find as Dave Marx, my exact voice and sound, even though I've been doing this for a lot of years now, because I'm passionate about a lot of sounds, you know, like I like my first concert, you know, was Incubus. My next one was Jack Johnson. My next one was Lil Wayne. Like, right? So it really, and like, to me, I don't know how to say, like, in my mind, these all go together. like this, it's not that different to me. I'm like, this is great. I'm like, let's see a Jack Johnson, Lil Wayne collab, you know, these type things. And I'm really happy with kind of where the state of music more today, where so many people can make music independently and don't have to go through different genre and label and marketing, you know, where's your audience, what type of music is that, what radio station are we going to play this on, barriers as much. They can really start just making whatever sounds they get out of their computer, whatever sounds they get out of their guitar. And so, yeah, then a few years ago, I had the opportunity to produce an album for someone else, you know, his name's Lamel, Galen Lamel. He was also at that night where me and Cineo met. Me and him are actually finishing up his second EP right now. We still work together, moved down from the Bay down to LA. We still live just 10 minutes away from each other. We're still best friends rocking. But that was, I mean, I was like, this is how I can really get my music out, I realized, because I can work with different artists across all different sounds. Like every day I have a new weird song in my head. Sometimes a kid song, sometimes a rap song, you know? So it's like sometimes about playing with your toys, sometimes about big booties, like, you know? And so it's weird I guess I've found the challenge of releasing those all on my own. You know, I don't necessarily have the voice, say, for all of those, or I don't necessarily feel as authentic, you know, doing some of these things. But if I can kind of use all these ideas I have, use these sounds I'm developing, use all these different musical tools in my toolkit that I've developed over the years, I really think I can help a lot of other artists besides me bring their voice to life. And that's what I'm most excited about going forward too.
I'm excited to see. Look at that.
Shout out Lamel. Lamel is also a talented artist. You know, it's funny enough, when I was looking, I had Snacks playing last, and then I look at your page, and at the bottom your credits are on Snacks' other track. So Dave really out here putting in work. You know what I'm saying? It's a small world, but again, right? He's a part of the crew. He's a part of the world that we live in, this universe, this network of individuals who are extremely talented. And I totally agree. all the artists you name, like whether it's Jack Johnson, Incubus, Lil Wayne, like it's music at the end of the day, right? What captures you, what gets your attention, what gets you pumped or gets your emotions in those spaces. I 100% agree. And I'm coming on the other end of that as I discover what it means to be an artist, to collaborate with producers, because I just want to frame this for people. Support people now, right? You don't need someone to tell you something's cool. Like you don't need a cosign. Those days are done. Like when you look, and this isn't a criticism as to do harm, but it is an honest, like this is an honest moment. We learn now that a lot of the people who we were giving so much praise to were exploiting people in very one-sided relationships, right? So now we live in this time where we do have access, but our access to be able to produce content and give you something comes at a price. And it's important that you support people at the different intervals and moments that they have to be like, oh, let me buy this, let me get some merch from you, let me figure out ways to support you. Because at the end of the day, if you want that music, because everybody says, oh, the music is gone, oh, the music's changed, it's not the same. Chances are you aren't looking, or you already passed it up, like straight up. Like I can't tell you how many times I've re-released music and people are like, this is amazing. I'm like, we literally sat in the car together as I played this for you. And now all of a sudden it's something new, right? But it's right. My stature changes in life. How I show up changes. And then you start to see me differently, where it's like, oh, you actually are an artist. And it's like, no, it doesn't have to be that way, right? So support your people, support them now, right? Like there's dope, talented art. Just be open to it. Don't wait for, Dr. Dre to come in and be taking a picture with Dave to be like, oh my God, I know him. Like, because it could happen tomorrow, right? He could be the executive producer on the next whoever. It could be Dave could literally be on Kendrick Lamar album. You wouldn't know it, right? So support him now because he's still raw. He's still dope. Y'all tripping, okay? So support people, right? Organically grown, right? Not genetic modified organisms, okay? We're out here coming from the ground up. So, with that, I just wanted to put that out there. Any questions before I go off?
I just want to say I'm excited to see the new collabs. I like how you have such an eclectic sense of music, and musicality I feel is so important when it comes to the progress of the art. So because there's so many chord progressions that we can use and try to vary up, that we have to incorporate all the keys. And sometimes we find like different sounds that we like from different genres, and I think that's absolutely great. Jack Johnson and Lil Wayne, they haven't collabed together, but Charlie Puth, I think he's an avid Jack Johnson listener, just off the top of my head, just going off the dome. But that song that he released with Lil Wayne, fire. What was it? Nothing But Trouble. Oh my gosh, top 10, because it gathered so many different aspects of current music. It wasn't just pop, it wasn't just R&B, it wasn't just hip hop. So Dave Marx, my hat is off to you.
Thank you, June. I mean, Charlie Puth is one of my idols. Like I was just watching him with another songwriter I love and producer and an artist. I love these guys who span, that kind of do it all. They'll produce for other people, release themselves. Black Bear, they were kind of just jamming together in the studio on Instagram today. And I love the things Charlie Puth has been doing on TikTok too, where he plays a little something as people rap back. It's just, I guess it's important to remember music doesn't need to be full polished tracks that are put out. Music can be a note, music can be a freestyle, music can be us humming and snapping together. And I think the more I can remember that, the more genuine the music comes out. And then the more I'm able to build my producer skills, the more I'm able to turn any of this into something that the people want to hear. So this is what I'm looking forward to in the future.
Great. Some of the hardest tracks I've ever heard are under 2 minutes. I mean, come on.
I think shorter is better these days. Everyone's on that trend now. I see them getting shorter and shorter. Soon we're going to just have 31-second songs just to get the stream on Spotify. Just long enough.
The vibe, just for the rave.
You guys know the artist Tierra Whack? She made an album that's all 1-minute songs, but they're like they go so hard. I just love it. And then she made these videos that accompany them that are, I love people that are just doing something a little different, you know, like if it sounds like something we've heard a million times before, why would we listen to it? Right. We have these tools at our fingertips. We have less barriers than ever before. Let's make something new.
True that. Only limits is the limits you place on yourself. And I can't agree more. You know, just by you saying that, right? Like understanding it's not always about it being polished. You just sometimes need to capture that moment. And you know, paralysis of analysis. Sometimes people will overthink the moment, thinking like, you know, we all have a creative element. We all have a creative part of ourselves. And a lot of times we'll prevent ourselves or set limitations on ourselves because of our perception of authenticity or validation, instead of accepting that we all share space, we all share the same air, we all bleed blood. Just put it out. Just get it out there in the world. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared. You know, there, of course, you can't help the haters, you can't help the trolls. They want attention too, right? And when you decide to take that leap of faith on yourself, there's always going to be that one person that will see what it is that you're really contributing to the world. And that's all you really need, is that one person, because that one person turns to two, that two turns to three, and it grows. But if you never take that leap of faith, you never get to experience that first person that supports you. So I'm just putting it out there. It's important, right? Don't always get concerned with being polished and having the best. You know, some people, they do need that support and they do need to have that happen. But a lot of people, to be 100, you sell yourself short because you never take the time to put yourself out there. So, you know, it ain't always about the glam and the, you know, the look, right? Like, don't get distracted by the teeth, because that's the point, right? Like people get caught up in the shine, not realizing what's being said or what's really being given. And a lot of times people, artists, we are sensitive beings, of course, but you can learn how to overcome those sensitivities just by getting the music out there. So please put the music out there, right? Don't be limited by these marketing terms and these boxes they put on you. Like Dave over here spitting like Childish Gambino on tracks, and I'm like, he hitting these pockets, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, but people would just look at the aesthetics and then assume, right? Like, yeah, but he's more of an acoustic. No, that's not. No, this is music. Like, take the time to really listen with an open heart and an open ear, and you're gonna see that there's so many different nuances and shades, because we're, you know, no one person is isolated, right? Like we are all a part of the same gumbo, right? Like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones came from Howling Wolf and Muddy Waters, right? Like this is just an evolving thing, and we all encompass these different things. So Dave, with that, like you've touched on, you know, what your influences are, and you've touched on also your collaborations with people, but I'm more so interested in like who is it right now that drives you or motivates you to want to do this, right? Like what are some of the kind of factors that play a role outside of yourself that kind of make you or help you do this music now?
Man, you know, on the good days, I can find inspiration anywhere. Like I'm inspired by my friends. I'm inspired by my family. I'm inspired by the environment. I'm inspired by my anger at the news. I'm inspired by my headache. I'm inspired. Like it's now sometimes, you know, in my own mental state, I'm not inspired by anything. I can't do it. I don't want to make music today. I'm sad, you know, but for me, like the pushing through that and like, you know, being able to be inspired by something simple. One, like I love what you're saying about, you know, how like one supporter can change everything, or just like being heard by one person can really, really change it. I mean, there's been multiple times since I've released music that I go on the Spotify for artists and like 2 people are listening and I cry out of happiness because there's people listening to my music right now. Like, and these days there like almost always is someone, which that's crazy to me. Like there's someone listening to my music right now. They're sitting and they're listening. Like, even if it's one, I mean, it really makes a difference. And I mean, for anyone out there who's just or all of us in our role as a fan, and really in a lot of this, I'm a fan first. Like the reason I do this is because I'm just blown away by so many. I'm like, that's amazing. I want to do that. I want to figure out how to do that. Damn, that's amazing. I want to figure out how to do that. Like, you know, support, like you said, I just love it. Support what you think is cool. No one needs to put them on to validate that it's cool. No, you know, and honestly, the smaller the artist, the more your love is going to mean to them. You know, Justin Bieber doesn't need a new fan, but you find some independent artist who's just put out an album that they made in their bedroom, and they're like, just like, is anyone going to like this? Is this going to connect with anyone? And you're like, yo, that song meant a lot to me. This line made me think about this. Like, literally, you have no idea how much it powers people to keep going and makes you want to keep creating. Just getting that one little note that'll reach one person, that they liked one line, that they liked one moment in the song, you know? Yeah, it's amazing.
No, I totally agree. I won't go too deep into it, but the reason why I say it is because I've experienced it as an artist myself for so long, and I've seen other artists go through it, right? So, you know, like, if anybody knows me, especially because, like, okay, on Instagram, we have our own group, right, of people from LA. Like, we all have this kind of like, you know, Illmind was the one that got us together, and he was like, okay, send in your tags, and then we'll make a group, right? So we're all a part of this group. And me, it's important that I give everybody love because I genuinely love what everyone's doing, right? But I also know there's an algorithm, right? I also know that there's this bigger vehicle, this bigger beast at play. And it's like, it matters to me to see Dave succeed because we shared the same space for that moment. We were both sitting in a seat having our music be critiqued, and it was an empowering moment. It was this feeling of feeling uplifted, right? In a world where you will always have doubts, you will always have people who are critiquing and criticizing, not for the sake of your growth, but because it's hard for them to accept your success or to accept your own personal development, right? Like, we had a moment, I seen that moment, and I'm like, I got to do everything I can to see my people around me succeed, right? The people who give me life, who bring me good energy, because I know it could do some good for someone else, right? But on the turn of that, right, the one person, like, I remember the first kid on SoundCloud was like, this song saved my life, right? Because it was at a time when I was doubting everything in my world about making music. And this one kid, this one girl, she's like 12 or 13, is like, this song is saving my life right now. And I could see that she listened to it like 200 times. And I'm like, you talk about breaking down in tears. Like, there's nothing more special than having that honest moment to be like, my music is having a positive impact, or my music matters to someone, right? It don't even have to be a positive impact, right? It could be impact in general, right? Not everyone's looking for what I'm looking for. But once you have that moment of like, oh, like, you like what I do? Like, I'm not just in some vacuum by myself. Then it's like, I got to keep going, right? Because the next song could be that next thing for someone else or for the same person, right? And I think that that's kind of where it comes from, is like really making sure that, you know, again, Lyrical Ones is a space for healing. It's a space for, you know, talking about things in a way that is productive and trying to take out the harm in the world. That's what we're here for, right? But we also are passionate about music. We're passionate about being creatives, right? Like, the person who's helped bring us together is a creative themselves. These are all creative individuals you see on the screen. Everyone at some level is creating, right? Whether it's the lyricism, whether it's the songs, whether it's the tone and the voice as you record it. This is a creative experience, right? So create and be willing to share. And I want to say that because it's easy to lose sight. Like, when things are great, you know, it's like, oh man, it's nothing. I'll knock out 10 songs today, right? But then when you do get those moments where, like, I'm sad, it's like, well, what's going to get me through it, right? What's going to help me get to the next part? And I think that's important for people to understand, is that we're all going to have those challenges and those difficulties. We're all going to have those doubt. And I mean, what to you, like, how do you battle your doubt, right? Like, when the doubt starts to creep in, what are the things that you found are the best ways for you to kind of deal with it?
I mean, I think I've realized now, like 28 years deep in this life, that my doubt is never going away. You know, I think that was a big real. I used to be like, oh no, I'm scared that I might not make it. What should I do about it? It's like, that voice is always there. I've been making music for 15 years now. I've been making music like full time, all day, 6 days a week for like 6-7 months, and every day I'm scared. Every day, it's so scary to sit down You know, if I'm starting a new song, what if nothing good comes out? If I'm trying to finish an old song, what if I can't make it sound good? What if it's not going to be good? If I'm meeting up with a new artist or you're working with them, what if they don't like my beats? What if we don't get a song in this session and then they don't want to come back? Like, these fears are, they're always there in my head. And the only way to quiet them at all is just try my best and do it, you know, take a deep breath. You know, meditation has been huge for me in these past few years. Toward the end of my corporate career, I started getting anxiety attacks at work. Like, where literally I would like sweat and feel like my heart was going to pound out of my chest, and I would like have to like see myself out. It was intense. And I guess I learned more about what that is, that these things are always going to be there. Everyone doubts themselves. Everyone is fearful. Like, even the most and I think a lot of times, you know, like, one thing I thought about was, so, okay, I got, say, 50,000 streams on this album, and I celebrated for a moment, and then I was like, but I want to get 100,000. And I was like, but what's that gonna do? Like, is 1 million gonna feel better than 100? Like what number of streams is gonna feel like it? And it's just quickly real, like, no number of streams is gonna feel like it. The thing that feels like it is one person connecting with it, you know, anyone listening, you know, at all, and like it touching anyone. So it's an everyday struggle that I guess I'm realizing is going to be there forever, because at each new level, I'm going to have new fears. Okay, then I'm performing in front of a big crowd. What if they don't like me? What if I mess up? Or what if they don't come back? Any of these things? But all we can do is try our best. And if you can try your best with like positivity and grace and confidence, and not let your insecurity like suck up the whole room and take all the space from bigging up everyone else, you know, that the most insecure people, right, are the ones, and anyone's trying to grab control or be mean, I think it's like almost always insecurity, you know, every time it is for me. If I'm like stressed in a session or being weird, no, I don't like that, it's because I'm insecure that I'm not doing my part well enough. And like, once you realize everyone is feeling like that, call out the things that are good. The things that aren't that good, we move on from. And, you know, I think it gets a little easier every day, even if it's never going to go away.
No, that's real. That's real. That's real. Before I you know, get carried away, anybody, please, before I go off. As I creep back to the microphone. So, you know, the thing is, I just wanted to kind of follow up about that part around, you know, the idea of that voice of doubt. And, you know, everyone find your way. I'm going to say that to say this. You're talking to a guy who's wearing a mask, who has gold teeth in his mouth, who at the same time, like, you know, it's about boundaries. It's about understanding there's a difference between when I'm on and when I'm off, right? That's what I say all the time. But it's me figuring out a way for myself, right? I seen what other people doing, and I was like, I gotta find the thing for me, right? And sometimes you're gonna seek approval. Sometimes you're going to need that extra push, right? Like, and I found it in so many ways, right? You'll find ways to justify why you do what you do, and your doubt will come in and try to like discredit and diminish and minimize and throw it out. And so you know, sometimes you got to learn how to trust your gut, and sometimes you got to develop your gut to be trustworthy. And I say that because I took a leap of faith, and I was, you know, going out of my way, because I was in isolation creating music. I was in a vacuum creating music. And me going to the Illmind event the first time was me taking a chance, a leap of faith, and a risk. And it resonated with me enough to say, I need to go to LA, right? And in that's when the first time I really was like, I'm going to test the mask out. And I remember as we started, I put the mask on. Everybody's like, what the hell is he doing? And I was like, look, I promise I'm not going to rob y'all. Like, we good, right? And so when it's my turn to talk to Illmind, I tell him, he's like, you know what? That's actually fire. And I'm like, that validation right there, like the reaction, he could have feigned it, he could have faked it, but his embrace in that moment was the push to be like, I need to make my own mask. I need to take this serious. And now looking back, my life is different because of those moments, right? Those little moments that we kind of like, we know we need it. We just don't know where we're going to get it. that helps deal with the doubt too, right? It's okay to like have doubt. You're gonna live with it, but find ways to fight it, right? Because now my doubt, I'm like, oh, you think you driving? Psh, I'm about to snatch the steering wheel. We about to crash together because I need to go into my fear, right? If I'm gonna pay somebody to talk to me about what I should do, and they're telling me, yo, every time you have that moment of fear or doubt or that insecure moment, jump in and go all the way, right? Now it's on me to choose whether or not I take that. But I'm like, oh, you actually are living the life that I say I want to live. And you're telling me what I need to do. So when the doubt comes, do I go with the doubt and say, all right, I suck. I'm going to sit down. I'm not going to do nothing today. I'm just going to watch YouTube and go down the rabbit hole of infinite, just trivial information that I will never apply to anything and I probably can't retain or remember. So yeah, let's just do that today, right? Or will I say, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to push myself and I'm going to see that I rise to the occasion today. Right. And I think that's important as well as all the other things we kind of discuss. It's paramount to push yourself, challenge yourself, greet those fears, see those little beady eyes in the dark that are looking back at you that are kind of telling you like, you ain't worth it. You suck. Right. Because there's going to be people who are going to critique you in the real world. And it's, again, going back to what Dave said, it's those insecurities. Those insecurities will drive people. And speaking of insecurities, like Dave, how is this current climate of the world impacting you? Because it seems like on top of insecurities in terms of like people's own mental state, it's a lot of insecurities just around like climate, insecurities around, kind of our leaders. It's kind of insecurities around like things aren't kind of like there's nothing secure. So, where do you stand?
I don't know. Sometimes I like laugh at myself and say that like this isn't exactly what happened, but I left my job at Google to become a rapper during a pandemic. Right? It's like sounds ridiculous when you look at that a little bit, but I think like like by laughing at like, well, that's ridiculous, but I'm going to do it anyway. And also by like, I don't know, for me, it's really about the small step. Like if I try to make a hit song today, it's not going to happen. But if I try to like make a healthy breakfast to start, I might get in the studio, and then if I try to like make a little riff I like, then maybe I can develop a little something, like I think, I'm definitely a fan of, all the Instagram motivationalists of like the Gary Vee and the Charlie Rocket and the millions of others. But I think it's like also important to remember that like you're not only a good person if you're like shooting for your top dream 14 hours a day, every day. Like rest is essential to your creation, love and being there for a friend, making a phone call to a friend is a creation that wasn't there before. Any of these, I mean, so it's the world is scary, but I don't know. The world's always been scary to me. Like, I don't know, as a person with anxiety, like I think I've kind of always had a fear that it's all going to come crashing down and that this can't last that much longer and that, oh my God, no. But then what I've learned in dealing with that's just ever present in my mind is like, you got a place to live today. You got like something to do today. I got a beautiful girlfriend, a great dog, a great house to live in. I got 3 meals a day, more when I want them. Like, it's
the evolution of a 90s baby right here, y'all. The evolution of a 90s baby. Telling you like it is. Level it up for you.
I mean, it's I'm too blessed to be stressed, I guess. Doesn't mean I'm never stressed. But, when you look at the blessings, you start to, like, as everyone knows, it's hard when you're feeling stressed and so many things are going wrong. But there's always at least one thing going right. There's always at least something, And if absolutely nothing's going right, maybe you could step back for 5-10 minutes. Take a few deep breaths. I don't know. Think about something good that might happen tomorrow. Like, these little things are really the things that become the big things for me. Yeah, it's too hard to just shoot right from 0 to 100.
I feel it. 100 on top of the 0 to 100. It's hard, and it's important to have those, as we say so many times, those essential practices, right? It's those baseline practices that you develop that will then create the foundation to support everything you're trying to put on top of it. And Dave really hit on the head when he said, okay, getting up today and making a healthy breakfast, right? Like, it's important to know what it is that you're actually putting into your body to sustain you to get through the day, right? That time that you trying to, right? Time is essential. You can't, you give it up, you don't get it back. But how you function, the value of that time, the quality of that time is defined by how you feel, right? What you actually do to take care of yourself, the prep that you actually are taking to say, okay, I'm going to handle this time. I'm going to be good with this time. And I think that it's so hard for people to like marry the two, right? It's like, well, I see what so and so is doing, and then you realize like they're not doing too good, right? But that's not until years or decades later. I can't, Affluent knows what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to say it as a way of disrespect. I'm not trying to say it as a way of bringing up harm, but we seen someone who we looked up to when we were young, and now they're in an unhealthy situation due to, what we could assume is prolonged unhealthy habits, right? Because I know I've been impacted by it. I have family members that I've lost to unhealthy habits, right? I had a mother, right? Like my mother had diabetes. We talking about heart disease, kidney failure, and I seen the transformation, right? Affluence on the other end of the coin, where he seen things and he was like, okay, I'm gonna find how do I intervene in the best way possible, right? We're all gonna get impacted in different ways, and the outcomes will be different, right? But what are some of the similarities now that we've seen these events? We have a shared interest in our health, right? There's a shared interest of being disciplined and dedicated to this practice of bettering ourselves and being well and being whole. And that helps us with being able to step up, being able to go the extra mile, with challenging ourselves when the times get too hard, right? Because we have this baseline that supports us when we start to fall, right? Because again, that foundation is what's going to keep us standing. And if you don't have that foundation, you could have 1 million records sold, or you could have $10 million in the bank. But if you, as Nas put it, if you have the king's disease where you're sitting there eating steak and you're drinking red wine all the time, what does it matter if your quality of life is just going to plummet, right? Oh, I have amassed all these riches, right? But I don't have the supports. Affluent, let them know.
And saying it brings to mind. It reminds me of Stuart Scott, who passed away, sports anchor who passed away from cancer. He said, "You don't beat cancer by surviving it. You beat cancer by how you live." And when you talk about using your time, and it matters how you feel. It's not just about feeling good. It's literally how do you feel things in the world? How do you process things? And when Dave said,
For real, this how to see when you start speaking the truth, those
one
that be
person can be important to an artist.
you see how they do us. You see how they do
they
it?
coming for me. They like to come
Coming
for
for
me.
you.
They like to come for me when it's time. But when I
He's in California. Stop it.
so
Okay, he's in
so
California.
when that one person can 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 hear an artist, when that one person can hear an artist, it can change and impact an artist. It's really, and you talk about taking a leap of faith. It's really like committing to yourself, committing to your craft, committing to your expression, and that commitment allows somebody to support you. Nobody's going to support a lemonade stand with no lemonade. They can't, right? But allowing that lemonade stand to be there with actual lemonade, and then allow somebody to say, "Oh, I'll give you my 25 cents. I'll give you my 50 cent," right? And that support then allows you to have consistency, just like you said. Illmind giving you that recognition, right? He didn't have to stay with you for you to be consistent, but he gave you that little bit of support. But he couldn't have given you that support if you didn't commit, right? If you didn't commit, put your songs together, take your trip, both of you guys taking that trip, being in that space and committing, then breeding that support then both of you right now, right, breeding consistency, right now, to where you both have disciplines on top of disciplines, right, which are now plans and creating new dreams as you are living the dreams that you once dreamed. New dream after new dream after new dream. And it all started with commitment. And whether it's health, whether it's peace of mind, whether it's strength, power, joy, like whatever it is you're looking for, if it doesn't start with commitment, then it's going to be hard for you to get there. And even when you don't have a choice, I think it's so important, like when we have things that we can't control, whether it's sickness like a pandemic or losing a family member, or loss, you can still, like Dave said, you can pause. If you can take 5 minutes, if you can take 10 minutes, then you have 5 minutes worth of breaths to take, 5 minutes worth of sight, 5 minutes worth of smell, 5 minutes worth of taste. You have 5 minutes worth of experiencing and processing and taking in this life, separate from whatever you think your reality is. And you can take in the truth that's there, that you can count those seconds, you can count those minutes, and those can be the blessings that can get you back to right zero, to get you to making breakfast, to get you to making a song, to get you to at least starting somewhere and an opportunity to commit again.
I just wanted to give a nod to that Nas album, though, the King's Disease, that sin reference. I held up my foot for the listeners and the viewers. They're like, why you, because he was like, you got that gout. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, you need to bring out the lemongrass. It's a boss album, okay? It's a King's album. So everybody, it's a Queen's album. Everybody needs I'm just going to put that plug. But real quick. Okay, thank you.
Essential listening brought to you by Lyrical Ones. This is episode 19, verse 2, bar 3. We are out here. We are with Dave Marx. Dave has been kind to grace us with his time and has educated us about who he is, where he comes from, and why he does the things that he does, mainly music. But with that, Dave, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, taking into consideration the basis, right? The baseline things that you got to do. What is your hope with the music? Like, where does it that you just put it out there, project into the universe so the universe can give you it back? What is it that you want, Dave, from this?
I want to help other artists get their voices heard. I want to help other artists find their sound, find their message, and share it with people to help, change their lives. That's it, man.
Exactly. In a sustainable manner. Support Dave Marx on all streaming platforms. Dave, is the project, did you take it down from being sold, or can people still buy it?
Yeah, people can still buy it on my website. It's www.davemarxmusic.com. If you want to support with the dollars, every dollar really helps.
It does.
I think, how many streams do you need for $1?
Depends. That's why
1,000. So
that's why I'm on title.
For the album, love you forever. Send you a personal thank you note. I'll call you on FaceTime, whatever you want. Yeah.
It's true. He really did hit me up and was like right on for buying, because I applauded, I supported, I believe in it.
I mean, you are one of the best independent artist supporters I've seen. I mean, that's why I knew I was so happy to come on. I'm so happy to support anything you're doing. I mean, this is all it is. Like we know how it is. We gotta support each other. We gotta uplift each other. Exactly. It all goes in a circle.
That's what I'm saying, Dave. Don't you ever think twice about a beat. If you got a beat, there's a pocket for me to rap on. Because this whole time, like my 40-song little marathon I'm doing right now and counting has been because of that, right? Like I'm a producer, right? First and foremost, just so y'all know, I'm produce music, and that was my first passion. I only started rapping so I could get next to an MPC. That was all it was, right? I knew if I could rap, they would allow me to get in the studio, and then it kind of just took off when it came to rapping. But the one thing that I've learned and realized is that so many producers have such incredible bodies of work, but you ungrateful, you semi-talented, non-committed, want to be thinking that you're really a rapper when you're not really a rapper, sitting up there picking and choosing, trying to be, oh, I gotta have the right sound. I gotta no, that hi-hat, that ain't it. Oh no, that bass line, no, that kick. Look, if there's a pocket, just do it. Just give yourself to the moment. I remember what it was like to sit in a room and not know, like, are you gonna buy this? And then I remember the times they did buy it, right? But I also remember the times I gave it away, right? I remember when I got something back in return for it, and I remember when it just sat there in like my hard drive in their folder, right, for eternity, because I'm like, are they ever gonna use it? And then they're like, oh yeah. Look, all right, like at the end of the day, the music has to come out, right? It has to be out there. And we are all creative individuals. There is a level of appreciation for every art, right? If you're really in tune with yourself, you'll know what's being said to you. Really hone in on that. If you listen to you, you can hear everything around you, right? If you're not listening to you, then you can't hear anything besides those things that are influencing you to tell you what it should be, right? Because that's what I noticed. That's what I learned, right? You could say what you want about it, feel how you want to feel about it, say that I'm wrong, but you're talking to the guy who's been doing this for quite some time. And I'm more than happy to share all the Dropbox files that I have of all the songs, and we could go toe for toe, bar for bar. It doesn't matter. I'm more than happy because I'm that guy right now. I'm on fire and it will not be put out. I am the sun. This is going on for a billion years. That's why I got the goals in the mouth. So when it comes down to it, I'm saying this as a way to help you liberate yourself from yourself, right? To help liberate you from all these societal oppressive standards that we've placed on ourselves, that we've started to agree to, that have now destroyed our ability to create, have destroyed our ability to feel, have destroyed our ability to be the different, unique, incredible individuals that we are, right? Because Dave is dope, right? Dave done sat up here and did a whole thing with Emil, and I've heard it, and I'm like, yo, he got this song called Bay Bridge. Y'all need to go peep it on every streaming platform, right? Like, there are these beautiful pockets in time, right? It goes back to what June said, right? This is how we decorate time. It's through the music. And Dave has decorated in the most grandiose, beautiful way. And I think that if you give yourself the opportunity, right, really get out of yourself, get away from those oppressive measures that they've inoculated everyone with, that they've put us all on, right? Like, oh, if it ain't like this, then it ain't real, right? If it doesn't look like, sound like, fit within the box or the spectrum of, then is it real? No, it's all real. It's as real as the blade of grass as it is the patch of dirt, right? As much as the pigeon is hopping with one foot, it is real, right? And I think that if you give yourself the chance, really dive into yourself, right? Love yourself first, right? Because that's essential. Like Dave talking about being able to eat healthy in the morning is a form of self-care. It's about love, right? Him identifying as great as this job may be to those on the outside, me being in this job is not wellness to me, right? It's causing me to feel something's calling, right? Because now on the other side of the coin, being in a space, in a place where it's like, oh, I'm able to ride my bike and enjoy this time, and even though everything around me is crumbling, I can embrace the better parts of my life. And now through that, I can create something that encapsulates that, right? Because that's what it's all about. Really paying attention, being in tune with you, doing the work to create the wellness, to reduce the harm, so you can live and be that person, right? We ain't saying anybody got it figured out. That's not what we saying at all. But I will say, if you really listen, take the time to what we saying, we a lot more happier than most. And a time like this, think about that. If you've been paying attention to all the episodes and the different conversations we've had, there's one thing we can do in the face of darkness, and that's smile and shine bright. It's important for those that don't know, that are listening to the audio version only. I paused because it was for dramatic effect to look into the camera to actually smile. For those that are tuning into Twitch or across the other different visual platforms, now you know. But for those that are only listening, right, it's important to smile. It's important to do that. It's important to enjoy yourself, even in the most horrible of times. Embrace and love you, right? So, Dave, do you have any other things that you'd like to say? Any upcoming projects? Any new releases? We know we can find you at davemarks.com. Is davemarksmusic.com or davemarks.com?
DaveMarksMusic.com.
davemarksmusic.com. Right?
Yeah, I will have. I'm working on a little Christmas album right now that I'm trying to put out. Just a couple Christmas songs. It probably won't be a full project, but that's probably what's coming next from me is Dave Marks. And then got to shout out a couple artists I have some great stuff working with. Lamel, Snacks, Alan Cass, and artists in LA based. Yeah, Alan Cass. That's right. Live your dreams, my man. We got some good stuff coming on his next project. And then artist I'm working with, he's next up, like for real. His name's Baloo, Balou. Check him out on Spotify. He's Baloo Royal on IG. We're gonna do something big. We got a lot of songs in the bank, and we're just trying to figure out kind of how to present them with the world. But he's got a lot of stuff out right now, and that's what's next. So I want to shout out to them. I want to shout out to my collaborators on Nostalgic Summer: Shan McMullen, Lamel, Dan Arwadi, Alan Cass had a feature on there. And I want to encourage everyone to vote early, and make sure to have your voice heard.
That's real. Vote early. Vote. It's important right now. It's going down. I was going to say it, but I'm going to say it. Like, Kamala gave me my auntie that bought a house and did better for herself energy. And even though it was like, we fumbled through some things, and your auntie be talking that mess, she talking that trash, and sometimes it don't be 100 truth, but when she get them little nugs in, you be like, ooh, that was spicy. I gotta respect it. I gotta back up. I'm telling you right now, out of the 4 top, like, the one that I'm really banking on is her. Like, I'm just gonna put it out there. Like, I ain't saying it's the perfect, I'm not saying it's the best, but I'm saying with that energy to be like, excuse me, Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. Like, oh, okay, I see where we at right now. This is the holiday dinner, and everybody needs to sit down because Auntie about to speak up on some things. And it's I'm only elated because there hasn't been that moment, right? I mean, we could go to the shut up, man. Like, that was a moment too. That was like, oh, okay, we getting there. But in reality, I got more of those moments tonight. There was a lot more of those moments. I heard there was a fly on a head and it just stayed there. I don't know. We'll have to see the review because I had to get out the way. But I was getting people giving me updates, and there was a supposed fly on the head and it didn't leave. And I try to refrain, from being, I'm not going to say it. I'm very responsible on the podcast. I let the guests always get the 3 cusses in the jar. Me, I'm going to say that ish, right? People always say I'm that ish, right? Like, and that could be a great thing or that could be a bad thing. And I think tonight that was more of a, is this maneuver to help us grow, or is this something stuck on the bottom of my soul? You decide, right? There's a difference in what kind of ish you can be, something that's nurturing or something that's harmful. And trust me, when you're walking down the street, especially in the lovely city of San Francisco, you might just accidentally, is that dog or is that man? I don't know, but it is not for me at all. So, Dave, I appreciate you so much for coming on here. I'm glad we were able to get you to, be a part of this moment. As we all grow, we continue to expand in this universe. I wish you much success, many blessings, all the good luck in the world, because again, people, this guy right here is incredible, right? Like, take no short of doubt in that. It is literally like beautiful music. Go and listen, take the time, enjoy yourself, because you will. So, Dave, thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you guys so much for having me. This was a great time. This pumped me up, learned a lot about state of the world, what we're trying to do, and how to clean my house in a environmentally friendly way. I didn't forget those tips, so I have to try that. Love that. And I mean, I feel usually I'm getting tired around this time, and now I'm feeling really pumped up and excited. So I think I might have to call Baloo, and we might have to hit Stu. This is so great, guys. I had a great time. Let me know how else I can support you and your artist, your community in the future. I'll be telling everyone about this, and I think first of many. I think this is just the beginning for all of us.
That's what's up, Dave. Right on.
All right. Thank you so much, Dave.
Thanks, guys.
DaveMarksMusic.com. Hit him up. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Right on, Dave.
Take care.
So as we proceed, Episode 19,
Yeah.
Lyrical Ones podcast. We just got finished with Dave Marx. And how are we looking, people? How are we feeling tonight? You know, we got finished talking a little bit about the debate with dare I say, my auntie Kamala and my next door neighbor, Mr. Pence, Vice PP. But what do you President Pence, right? Vice President Pence. I wasn't being disrespectful. I was just initializing the kind of formalities because we use last names, like Mr. Pence, but it's like Mr. Vice PP. But anyways, June, like, did you get to peep anything? Did you take anything? Like, where did you get to see anything?
Yes, I did. I still think it's funny what you're saying. His nickname. I think Alpha has some more to say. It's something a little more pertinent to say. Oh, okay. Hey.
No, I just had to say that for 2 seconds, I go to grab water, and he's saying BPP on the.
Oh, for laughs. The few moments that I did have a chance to tune in, I did see where Vice President Pence. Actually, wait, before I even start with the shade. Okay, no, I love the way it's constructed. I love that the two really tried to stick to not interrupting each other, and really whatever answer they gave, they were thorough in their own means. And there were a couple of questions that Vice President Pence chose not to answer. Quite interesting. And he also chose to interrupt Senator Kamala Harris. Now, that's Black girl magic, where she held her composure, baby, like a queen that she is, and said, "Excuse me, Vice President, I'm speaking." Oh, I'm speaking right now for our agreement. Oh, I'll let you finish. Yes, go ahead, finish. And at the end, she told the moderator, "I want my time back." And she got it. And she finished everything. So, I mean, yeah, but on a lighter note, I did see that fly on the head. But, Sin, you said, is it going to maneuver us for growth, or is it going to maneuver us for oh, well, forgive me. But I thought you said manure. Like, is it manure for growth or manure that we toss out? And I'm like, well, flies love manure. So.
That's what he was alluding to. That's what he was alluding to. That's why he's just doing a little extra thing with his bars this evening.
A little extra, just a little sprinkle me, Uncle E40, sprinkle me, okay?
A little extra spice.
We out here, gotta get it. Again, that's another E40 going with the spoon. He put the spice in the food. People on Instagram, he be cooking. But again, when it comes to this moment, it was like, there is a difference, right? Like everything shares a different space given the context. So, right, when it comes to the ish, manure helps food grow, right? But when you accidentally step in some dog doo-doo, well, that's just sitting on the bottom of your shoe, aka your soul, right? Like, peep game. At the end of the day, what is this really doing? Is this nurturing your soul, or is this getting in the way of what your soul's supposed to be, right? And I think that in this moment, when the fly land on the head, I didn't feel no nurturing coming from him. There's no nurturing energy. Well, let's get to the voter registration deadlines for California online. Registration deadlines October 19th by mail. Okay, must be postmarked by October 19th. The deadline in person is November 3rd, right? So people, please, if you haven't registered to vote, register to vote. It is important. We can't say it enough, right? This is about,
we literally have the best producers.
We do. They out here for real. You know what I'm saying? But it's one of those things where we gotta really take ownership of the moment, because I'm gonna keep bringing it up to everybody's watched the documentary, Michelle Obama's documentary on Netflix, because I never forget what she said. She said, "We got in office, but our people stopped voting." And it is important that at every interval, at every moment, we continue to vote, because again, the police can lie because the people who made the policies said it was okay, right? The police enforce the policies, the politicians create the policy. We vote on the policy. If we don't know that there's a policy to vote on, chances are they could slide one under our nose and we wouldn't know the difference. We wouldn't be any of the wiser, right? So just as much as it's important to vote for our presidents, it's also important to vote for our policies, right? So if you are looking live, at the bottom of the screen, we have the dates and the times, the deadlines of voter registration within the state of California. Please, if you are listening in a different state, look up and see in your state, what are the rules and terms for your voter registration? Because some states have already ended, right? So it is important that you start to look, take ownership, do what you can right now, right? If you're listening abroad across the globe, I'm sorry you got to deal with our madness and our trash. But hey, we out here, you feel me? We doing the best we can. What we got, we stupid doo-doo dumb. But with that, it's just important that everybody understand, like right now, it is essential because I seen a little bit of the debate, and there was this moment Mike Pence said, he said it really quickly, right, as he was taking up more time, and he was like, 4 more years president Trump. And it sounded like he said 4 more years in president with Mr. Trump. And I was like, what? I don't want no 4 years of nothing, right? Because for me, it's been really tough for my family. It's been tough on the people, my communities. It's been tough in a lot of different regards. And I think it's important that right now we have a chance to maybe engage with someone a little bit more, have a little bit more lean in, so we can actually have some changes, right? Like, June, let it go.
Actually, I think that Sin, your family, you're not the only one who've been going through it, okay? My family, there's 30 million Americans that are on unemployment right now. 7 million Americans have COVID. Over 217,000 have died from COVID. Just to state facts, okay? But President Trump also said, hey, I'm not going to sign another stimulus unless you get me reelected. Is that not right? Actually, you know what? I don't even want to say. I'm just going to let you think, our listeners think, whatever it is, that first thing that comes to mind. But I don't think that's very presidential in its nature. But I don't know. He's campaigning. Maybe it is. But I just do want to say something about policy and voting, because all this fury, all this energy that everybody's building up needs to go and be channeled into voting. Not just presidential elections, not just for the Senate and the House, but also at your local level. And policy is how our laws are written, how our laws are amended, and what needs to change. Something that I think needs to change. Allow me to read a news feed. Ex-Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin, one of the men charged in the death of George Floyd, had a bail for $1 million. I don't know why I say that like a question, but he was released today. So that puts some kind of fury in me as an American. And whether you're on whatever side, you need to get your voice heard. That energy needs to be channeled and going towards something bigger. Because the day and age that we live in, it's only going to get more confusing. It's only going to get more convoluted, more corrupted, unless we do something now.
Really real, really, really real, really real. What's really, really real?
And now all four officers involved in the murder of George Floyd have been released.
Now all 4?
They have all been released now with this bail released today.
Disgusting.
The plot thickens. Right? They're gonna try and push us down. We gotta figure out ways to push us back up, right? We must remain organized, disciplined, and thoughtful in our response and our approach. Because if the pandemic has showed us anything, if the supposed officials, I'm not gonna call them leaders, I'm just gonna call them officials, elected officials, have shown us anything, is that this system, the society, was not built for us. It was built to try and control us. because all I've seen is inconsistency when it comes to my care and my well-being, when it comes to the people's well-being and care for the people. All I've seen is an inconsistency around the treatment of people, Americans, right? It just so happens that when it comes to, you know, immigrants, or when it comes to the Americans who are the descendants of American slavery, there has been a very clear like distinction in how we're treated. And I think that right now it's important that we stay organized, we stay focused, we stay persistent, and we are productive with our change, that we remain on the side of positivity, not as a way to turn the other cheek. Oh, no, no, no. As we can all attest, especially in this past week, the video that been making the rounds is, you know, save it, save it for Jesus. Don't test me, right? Because it's about being positive, but it's about protecting yourself, right? It's about being positive, but it's also about being mindful of, are you going beyond your boundaries, right? Is someone infringing on your safety, on your health, on your well-being, on your happiness, on your joy, on your civil liberties, on your freedom? We got to figure out what is the best ways to protect that. What are the techniques to keep shining through the dark? Because it's dark right now. It wasn't too long ago, Northern California was looking like, you know, Blade Runner. And, you know, we were sitting up here looking like it was the end of times, right? How do you shine at a time like that when the world is choking you, right? It's bad enough they choking us, but now we got to deal with the world choking us. And it's only because we not keeping up our end of the bargain with the relationship to the world, right? We have a relationship to everything. And unfortunately, our officials, our elected officials, like quotations, because that's someone else's words. I didn't elect them. They haven't been helping us uphold these different responsibilities, these relationships, right? So vote, register to vote, get to know what's out there, right? There's so many different ways to get informed, and it's important to have conversations. Isn't, you know, anybody watch Social Dilemma? Did anybody get to see it yet?
Yes, on Netflix. But hey, can I chime in real quick?
Yeah.
Toby did an all live stream of his concert, you know, where he said, try Jesus, because I got hands. Okay. Just I'm rooting for his Grammy. But real quick, I think it's important to have positive role models. Positive role models when it comes to the elected officials, positive role models in your community that look like you. And for me, that is Senator Kamala Harris, because she said something, not only did she was very crafted in everything she said. She drew the polarity between Trump supporters and potential Biden supporters, but she said this profound thing about how do we gauge American success. And just to paraphrase, she said, President Trump gauges American success by the well-being of the corporations and now economic success. She paraphrasingly said that the Kamala and Biden-Harris administration would gauge American success in their economy by the success of the American family. So it's just drawing a picture of polarity. And I just want to say to those voters, how do you gain economic success, and how do you define it? So actually, that's it.
No, that's real. I mean, I just want to say, you know, it's not, like I said, it ain't to paint the picture that anybody's perfect. Like, that's not what I totally understand. I'm as much a part of this struggle as everyone else. You know, I'm not removed from society. I work within the community. Like, that's what I do. The work I do here, that is healing for myself, as well as I hope for whoever's listening and a part of this circle that we're constantly speaking with, right? That work is carried over back when I'm the other me without the mask, right? The work is not separated, right? It's reinforcing itself, right? This is a self-fulfilling thing. And I can't change nobody's life, right? I've accepted the only life I could change is my own. I can provide opportunities. I can provide information. I can give you the recipe, but if you never take the time to get in the kitchen, it will never get made. And that's on you. And I'm learning every day more and more to accept that in all of its nuance and all its variety. But what I can accept is a world where there's things at play that have control, not only over myself, but over others that I care about. And we don't have any power in the conversation. We don't have any say in what's happening, right? And that comes from the political side, the political nature of the beast that we live in, but also when it comes to these tech companies, right? Because I brought up Social Dilemma because it brought up a good point, right? Now, of course, documentaries aren't unbiased. They have a point they're trying to make. And the point that was being made was they have created these systems made to have us addicted, right? Oh, I got to look at my phone. Let me look at my phone. Let me who I got a notification. Oh, let me respond. Oh, what is this? Oh, what is that? Oh, I like this. Oh, I don't like that. Oh, this is funny. This is sad. This is right. You keep on coming back. You're plugged in because they get paid for the time you are there, right? So, if that's the case, politics, just like sports, is a way for people to invest their passions, to invest in their interests, and to create a discourse. And it just so happens that now there are these echo chambers that can reinforce one narrative, right? And I feel this way because I'm seeing how it plays out, right? I follow people who have very, very different beliefs, very different perspectives, but in those threads, in those conversations, I'm seeing how isolated people's ideas are without really taking into account someone else's. I've been in some heated exchanges on Twitter, and it was one of those things where I was like, I'm trying to maintain my composure and being true and being honest. And in that moment, I could see people getting ramped up off of what I was saying. And I said it in the most respectful manner. And I was starting to like lose all sight of like, man, like, is this the way of the world? And I never forget somebody else came in and intervened and was like, are you actually taking the time to look at what this person is saying? And they were in defense of me. I didn't know this person. I didn't know who they were, but they were supporting me, right? And that's where the critical conversation happens, right? When we put ourselves out there and we're not doing it out of just passion, but we're being mindful of how this is going to impact someone else, right? Because you can say the truth, right? But it's the difference between me saying, hey, how you doing? And well, shut up, right? The meaning is the same, but how it's received is going to be different. It's all in the intent, right? How are you doing? How you doing? Right? It's all in the intent. Same words, different feelings. And I think that's what's happening right now is we're not paying attention to how we're saying things anymore as much as just getting our point across, right? We're getting so caught up in being right that no one's willing to take the time to break down the actual problem to get to the solution, right? Let me say that again. We want to be right, but we don't want to break down the problem to get to the solution. I think a lot of times it's so easy. I got the answer, right? We live in this world, the industrialized. We said it. Say was on here and had brought up the industrialized nature of school and how we're so quick to want to just be right, right? To just me, right? The time's at the essence, right? Pick me. I have the answer. Now I'm being held on a pedestal because I got it right. Instead of I made sure everyone could understand how to get the answer. Because that's why people fail in school. They don't understand how to get the answer, right? People aren't failing because they choose to fail. People fail because they don't have full comprehension of what's being given to them, right? Here's a hammer. What do I do with it? If I don't show you how to hit the nail or even let you know that it's supposed to be a nail and not a person or not a bug or not an animal, well, what am I supposed to do? I could give you the tools, but am I going to give you the technique? And I think at a time like this is really important when we're talking about politics, when we're talking about the climate, when we're talking about just the disparaging gap in justice when it comes to people who are Black or people of color and what they're experiencing in this world. We have to really be mindful of, can I break down the problem to get to the solution? So it's just one of those things that I hope people are mindful and thinking of, and they're really taking into account. So, that's my little piece.
Yeah, speaking of taking into account, I do want to remind folks listening, folks watching, the progress that is made, in some ways, not in justice, but in awareness. We're still dealing with, we want to send our thoughts and prayers out to the family of Jonathan Price out of Wolf City, Texas, outside of Dallas. 32-year-old black man, unarmed, who was first tased and then shot and killed by police officers in Wolf City, a town with a population of 1,500. Jonathan Price was he was de-escalating a domestic violence situation, and as the argument subsided and ended, police showed up, and though he put his hands up and tried to explain the situation, according to all witnesses, there's no discrepancies there. The police then tased him, and from his body convulsing, and they shot him and killed him. And the police officer who shot him was arrested and charged with murder. So that's where things are now, and we've seen charges, and we've seen arrests, and we've seen arraignments, and we've seen now, people, released on bail. But we still want to be aware that there's still injustice happening. Like, we don't need any more martyrs. We don't need any more killings. We don't need any more hashtags or T-shirts. But we still need awareness. We still need our voices, and we need our voices together, not apart. We need our voices in unison, asking for justice from our local administrations as well as our federal administration. And that justice comes from systemic abolition of these systems that put us at risk instead of protect us. We need to continue to speak out. We need to continue to listen to each other, create dialogue, have these conversations with peace and understanding, and with an intention to move forward, with an intention to work together, with an intention to vote and elect folks who vote for and elect people who care about us and our well-being, not just as people, but as communities, a part of the same community. And we can't do that apart. We can only do it together. So continue to hold yourself accountable by speaking up, by listening, by checking the privileged person next to you, even if that privilege is the same as yours. Whether you live in Flint, Michigan, or you live in Detroit, or you live in Baltimore, Maryland, or you live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, or you live in Atlanta, or you live in LA, you live in San Francisco. Like, if you live in America, there's a privilege that's there. And the more we create this otherness, the more we create this, as long as somebody's underneath me, I'm okay. We continue to create, this lifestyle, this perpetuate this culture, then we will miss out on the dream that America could be, and also we'll miss out on bringing in and including people who are left out and looked over. Because if you're only seeing the people beneath you, then you're not even seeing the situation that you're in. And again, it's not about saving yourself. It's about saving all of us. And the more we continue the more we keep the otherness going, the more people are going to die. The more people will lose, because there are people who are losing rights left and right. And people come to America sometimes with no rights, and we're seeing it in disappearing children. We're seeing it in deported families. We're seeing it in women who have been violated and sterilized. We're seeing it all over this country, and it starts with us paying attention to who we're voting for. It's just a call to action to take your citizenship seriously, take your right to vote seriously. It doesn't stop this year. It doesn't stop next year. As long as you're eligible to vote, you should be. And if you can't, you can still vote with your dollars. You can still vote with your time, with the commercials you watch, the apps you use. You can continue to vote, and it's important that you do.
No, for sure, for sure. And just to kind of touch on that, what is this man's name? One more time, Affluent.
Jonathan Price is the man who's murdered.
Jonathan Price, murdered in Texas. So
Leader in the community, personal trainer, like instructor, someone who people thought was a model citizen, a hero, and somebody who worked for the city. So like he wasn't unknown to even the officers who shot him.
Yeah, and on top of that, people have been doing, to me, a disservice to his name by trying to create this narrative about, and he was one of the people who thought the police were the good guy. Now, we are all in a world where we're able to criticize and have opinions and have viewpoints and have a discourse. I'll be the first to say that a lot of my information and education from what the police is and kind of how they started is actually born out of George Floyd being, kind of the martyr for this new era that we live in, right? Before, it definitely was on the side of, well, not every police officer is bad, right? But it's like, well, that's glossing over a much larger and much more complicated and intertangled topic, right? And I think that, yes, do I know police officers? I do, right? Do I care for them? Yes, I do. Do they do good in the community? Yes, they do. That does not take away, separate, dismiss, or take anything out of the fact that there is injustice happening. People are being killed. People are being incarcerated. There is a system that is definitely one-sided and very biased. And just because I've had these experiences, it doesn't diminish or stop what is happening, right? It doesn't, it's not me trying to devalue or disrupt or be disrespectful to someone who's experienced things differently. But at the same time, I've had my fair share of encounters, incidents, and moments. They definitely make me feel like this is the last thing that I need is a police officer in my face, right? It is a complicated life we live. There is so much nuance. And so for this man, Jonathan Price, to have shared his beliefs or shared his thoughts, and now at the hands of police has lost his life, right? He can't speak to what he may feel today, right? I have the ability to change my mind because thankfully I'm here. But Jonathan Price wasn't given the same opportunity to be able to have the discourse or to be able to engage or be enlightened or to see all the different perspectives and the nuance in this complicated and very woven fabric that we all are a part of right now. And I think that it's just one of those things where, me being responsible, being mindful. Yes, I do say things that with a little bit of spice from time to time. But one thing that I try to stay away from is if I really don't know you, I can't really speak to what happened in terms of what you feel or what you felt, especially if you're not here to talk to me, to let me know how you feel today. And I would hope that people can give that sense of space, give that sense of respect to a person who can't defend themselves, who can't have a conversation, because this is an unfortunate event, right? This is another tragedy. This is another travesty. This is another life that has been taken away, not because of any other reason other than, as Al Fluid poetically put it, that otherism, right? You part of that, right? I perceive you as a threat because you part of that other thing. And now this person is another life that we have to witness being taken away. And it's really because of this dynamic power structure that is oppressive, right? But speaking of oppression, speaking of life and death, I have to also highlight the fact that there is a conflict happening between two countries, right? I apologize for butchering the pronunciation. You have to excuse me. English is not my first language. It was just the language that they gave me. So we got Armenia and Azerbaijan, right? They're in a conflict right now. There is a war going on, right? From the little information that I know that Armenia sits on the west side of Azerbaijan and that You know, Azerbaijan sits on the east side of Armenia, right? So they share this land, they share this space right next to each other, neighboring countries, and they are in conflict. People are losing their lives. There are people who are stepping up to go to war, who will not have the opportunity to come home because they believe in their country, they believe in fighting what their country stands for, and so they feel the need to protect their country. But what does it also mean, right? There's a bunch of people who are making decisions and choices over the people, not even thinking twice about the lives that will be lost or the value that will be lost, that you can't replace, that you can't get back. These are fathers, these are brothers, these are sons, these are uncles, these are nephews, these are family members who are putting their lives on the line because of what they believe in. And to me, you know, you don't have to believe anything, you don't have to do anything, right? But be aware that this is what's going on right now in our world. While we are struggling to figure out our elected officials, I can only imagine the struggle they're having with their officials, right? I'm not saying leaders right now, I'm saying officials who are, they're the ones directing the fate of the world for these people, whether they live or die. So I want to give a moment of silence to the people who are in the struggle in these two countries, as well as Jonathan Price and the countless other individuals, victims, tragedies of people who are taking other people's lives away. It's important that we all take a moment to pause and reflect and to breathe and to take in what is going on in the world, whether it's within your own country or whether it's a country on the other side of the world. Pay attention, be aware. You don't have to do something, but if you can do something, please, by all means, do something. So, any final thoughts, any final words?
I just want to say I'm thankful and honored to be on a cast just as this. Everyone bless up.
100 for sure. I mean, I'm thankful as well, June. I'm thankful for you being a part of this. You know, for our lovely producer Lacey, thankful to have you be a part of this experience with us. Al Fluent, thankful as always to have you to make sure that we maintain our form through every struggle and every stressful moment. You know, this has been the Lyrical Ones, episode 19, verse 2, bar 3. We had Dave Marks on. As again, incredible music, especially at a time like this where things are so heavy. His music will give you a little bit of light. So, you know, I'm gonna leave with that. But you know, we do what we do.
Check out the album, Nostalgic Summer.